The inflation report is in. We need to talk about its impact to the stock market, and I have a few stocks that I also want to give a commentary on. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education, and if you want your life to be a little bit easier, you can just sip on a little bit of simplicity. All right, we're going to take a look at the SPY and the Qs and just how high we could go in these markets, and then I also want to look at Tesla, Nvidia, and Apple. We're going to bring those into the mix as well. And I'll tell you about your free stocks from Moomoo. I'll tell you about my Patreon where you can see my buys and sells and how I'm playing this market, and also my options course that I'm building out over there. In the meantime, if you've been watching this channel, you know that from here, I do want to get right over to the markets. So let me drop that down and pop this up. So we're looking at the Qs right now, and you can see where we're at, where we come from. You could see when we got this candle right here, this dragonfly doji, you could call it, where we have that long bottom, short top on that really narrow body. And then that was the sign that we were going to pop up here. This green one confirmed the candle that today could be a very good day for us in the markets, even before the inflation report. Now the inflation report has come out. We will take a look at that, by the way. We are currently sitting at 361, almost 362. And I did say that for this one, that 364 is where we see that next line of resistance. So we wouldn't be watching for that. That would mean that we put on almost another percent from where we're at right now. And if that news that we received is very, very good, then it's possible that we come to 368. And beyond that, it's just that ultimate rejection level that I talked about of 372. So we would be watching for that in the markets. Let's go to the SPY real quick to see where we're at pre-market, talk about where we could go for the SPY. 431.43 is where we sit as I record this video, and I said that we could possibly go from there and we could see 434. Beyond that, we have 438, the ultimate level of rejection for this one, sitting at 442. So we want to see if that does happen to play out for us. You can see the bearish channel that we're in. We're down below the 50-day, and let's take this and hope that it turns into a decent rally for us where we can capitalize on some volatility on the way up with some long plays. And then should we see signs that we're going to turn back around, then we'll switch it around, we'll go short, and we'll ride the wave back down, and we'll profit on both sides of this. So we do want to be on the lookout for that. And let's take a look at the inflation report real fast, and then we'll get over to the tech stocks that I wanted to make sure that I talked about with you. And so when we bring this up, you can see the core PCE. I said in my previous videos that if we see that come in below consensus, that'd be very good. 0.1, excellent. That's actually threading the needle there. With 0, could be a little bit concerning that we were actually falling too much, too fast. But 0.1 is a bit perfect. Previously, last month we had 0.2. So this, by the way, is for August, not September. We get September's report in October. And then here's the consensus and forecast. So that came out really well for us for core PCE. Personal spending helped us out as well, coming in at 0.4%. So that's also very much worth noting that that's half of what even the revision that we have, which I think was 0.8 before, now it's revised to 0.9. So we're under half of that in personal spending month over month. So it's nice to see the consumer slow down, because this does impact what we might see tightening wise from the Fed coming out of this. So make sure that you pay attention to that. Personal income staying pretty stable as well. That's also pretty good for us to see inflation coming down, but inflation for personal spending, or I should say increases in personal spending, staying stable for us rather than also dropping right along with inflation. That way we actually get some real personal income gains coming out of that. So we also have for the PCE for year over year, 3.5%, which matched consensus for this one. And when we look at that core level, for year over year, we dropped down from 4.3 down to 3.9. So that does continue to soften. And anything to allow the Fed to stop their tightening, I think is really going to be worthwhile. We have a lot of concerns coming up for that. And as far as softening in the jobs market, by the way, we do have a child care funding from COVID falling off this month. That means that for October, we could start to see some softer numbers coming out of that if enough families are impacted. And while it's a horrible thing for those families, matter of fact, my wife is staying home to raise our child this year. And one of the reasons for that is the expensive health care that comes along with it, that it would severely mitigate the amount of money that she would bring in otherwise. And so we just took a little bit of the loss, and, hopefully I can balance that out a little bit in earnings this year. If I can't, we're just going to be without that extra income, and that was our choice. And I will work as hard as I can to make sure that my family is minimally impacted by that one. And I do think that it was the right choice by having that my wife and I made to have her stay home and raise our daughter. And it's been incredible. We think it's going to be turn out to be a really good thing. So let's turn this back over to the markets here so we can talk about those tech stocks that I wanted to talk about. So let me put this back up and bring this back to you. So we're going to start off with Tesla for this one. There we go. So Tesla in the pre-market is sitting at 250. The importance there is that the 50-day as of yesterday's close was 251.48. I think that we have strong enough news that we could blast off out of that, break 255, 258. It is possible we get enough green in the markets that we even start to retest 260 coming out of that. So that would mean that we would put on another 4% on top of where we're at right now. So I think that that would be really incredible to see that. And I think we're going to see a lot of bullish calls coming out of this. It is important to note that what we have down here in the RSI as of yesterday on the daily chart is still sitting in bearish territory, but starting to move upward toward the 50 on the RSI. I think today we could see that. And I do think that if we're going to continue in a bullish direction next week, that we'll have time for that confirmation. If we put up some of StockMo's EMAs, if you haven't watched our live stream, go check that out. I'll make sure that I keep that link for it down in the description of this video, so you can go ahead and look for that. We are down below the 5-period EMA right here, and we want to watch for that to start turning around and crossing, and we could get some of that coming in today. That yellow line is really what we also want to look at, and should we overtake all three of those and cross, you can see what happened the last time we had that cross. Here's that big rip that followed on that cross day. That would have been the day that you entered, and you can see what would have happened, and then your exit would have been here where you start to see them cross again with some warning shots in between. And there's other things. You can go watch our live stream. There is a lot. It's a long video, but I'll tell you what, you can even go watch some of his other videos where he talked about it. I want to give him credit for coming up with this structure of it. So most definitely be watching those. And I do think that should we turn around in a bullish direction for Tesla, that we're going to see that possibly in the near future. Maybe next week's a really good week for us in terms of rallying. And so let me move away from Tesla. So actually, let me just leave this comment here, is that if we do close today around that 260 mark, next week's also strong, we could possibly go up and try out 272, maybe even have a double peak at 278. And should we break that, that would be very bullish for Tesla to see that go up, because that would be a higher low and a higher high, which would tell us that we would continue in a bullish direction. Now, it is worthwhile to mention that Tesla has their deliveries coming out on October the 2nd. So that's Monday of next week. That's a catalyst for us in either direction. So if we get strong deliveries, which I think there's a good possibility that we have it, that could be more bullish momentum for Tesla and really push us up higher and show us that we're still in a bullish path for them. And that could also lean towards a positive sentiment towards earnings. And I have that Tesla stock price prediction and earnings projection in the works. I've had a lot of tech issues, which have mitigated my time to work on it, but I'm going to have that out prior to the deliveries, and then I will update it with the deliveries, and I'll have that available over at the Patreon. Let's move over from there, and we'll go over to Nvidia. So Nvidia, also very exciting, up at 437.65 right now as I record this, and crossing over that 5-period EMA that we have, getting close to crossing over also that 13-period EMA that's on here as well. And then the 50 days also there. So let me bring that down, because that's a lot of noise as we look at the candlesticks. The 50-day simple moving average is right around 450. So I do think that it is possible with enough momentum today that we blast right through for $440 per share, maybe try out 445 if we clean that with some good volume that goes along on top of it and some good momentum as we see it building in the RSI. I think that we could possibly even see that 450 come out of this. So exciting news if it plays out as well as I think it could for Nvidia today and Tesla today, just the overall market today, that some of these big prices could hit for us at least at some point during the day. And it is possible that when the market opens that we actually come back and retest support first, fill the gaps, as some of my Discord members like to say. I think Mike is one of those who's over there who likes to talk about filling the gaps, and absolutely to come back and fill the order book and pick up those orders from those lower prices before rising more. That is something that actually happens. So we want to be looking for that. So that's the commentary that I have on Nvidia. Let's go over to Apple and see where they're at. So for Apple, you can see that they fell out of this bearish sign that we have for this descending triangle. However, it did come back and it retested. Let me see what that high price was at $172 per share, which was one of those support/resistance levels for us. And now it is acting as resistance. And we are actually up above it when we look at this in the pre-market hours. So now that that candle happened, we can probably update this to actually take a look at it this way. And now that we have that low point to look at, that transforms incredibly into a descending wedge. And so from that, maybe we see that 174 pop out of it, maybe even 177 coming out of this. So 174 to 177 could be that range where we see today as a high point, or possibly even close somewhere in between those two values. So be looking for that as we get to that. I would say that 177 is about the extent of it, unless the market goes absolutely bonkers with the inflation report coming in as positively as it did. Personal income and outlays overall, I should say, coming in as positively as they did. So be on the lookout for that. I do want to backtrack to Nvidia for just a second, because for Nvidia, this broadening wedge that we have happening here, bearish sign, we double bottomed on this one pretty much. This one's a little higher, which is actually a little bit more bullish. The fact that it was just a little bit higher than this previous low. So that is something that this could ramp up a little bit for us. And I don't think that we go back and try out 500 again unless the market itself turns around from its current bearish movement into a bullish one by putting in a new higher high from its previous high. That, in that case, I could see us moving on to like that 470, 480 mark that we would be looking at. Until then, I don't know that 500 is in the cards, but as market strength does return, I think Nvidia strength also is going to return. And then we also have earnings coming up for Q3, which I have the Nvidia earnings and stock price prediction available over at the Patreon as well. So I'm going to bring that down and bring this up because I want to remind you about the free stocks from Moomoo. That link down in the description, it's where I trade my options. And if you sign up with my link down in the description, here are the deposit levels. Here's the free stocks that you get for depositing that money, and you get a free share of Tesla or Google on top of that. Here's what my Patreon looks like. So should you use that link down in the description and go over there and become a Patreon, you can get my stock price predictions that are over there. And you can also get access to my options course that I'm building right now. And this is old. I actually have 9 lessons up there so far, and I'm just about to get into the applications on that, and I'll update that this weekend, starting to talk about taking actual call options, put options, and then I'll move on from there into advanced trading strategies with some of the other details that I need to fill in now that we're moving over into the actual use of those options. But this is designed to work for the very beginner and go all the way up through the advanced trading strategies to amplify the power of your portfolio to experience as much alpha as possible on top of any different stocks that you might be invested in, stock trades that you do. Bringing options into that can certainly bring that into the mix. And I've reported a lot on this channel about a lot of the gains that I made, a few of the losses that I reported on all of the losses that I've taken recently on those. In an attempt to be transparent here, I'm fully transparent over at the Discord where I post my buys and sells, which is available through that Patreon. Thank you guys for watching this video. Hit that like button if you haven't. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't. Check out that live stream with me and StockMo. It's awesome. He even does at least one live trade on there. I had to step out a few minutes early, but trust me, like it is wonderful. Like stuff that you can actually put to use, apply it immediately, even in a paper trading sense where you're just testing it out and seeing if you can also make it work for yourself. And I believe that you can. I think it's incredible, wonderful, powerful, and trying to bring as much value and opportunity that I can to you through this channel. And anything that doesn't fit within this channel, you can find it over at the Patreon and through the Discord that's available there. Guys, don't forget about your free stocks from Moomoo. Thanks for watching. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning, and we'll see you in the next video.